Originally from Ballarat and dubbed the fairy godmother of the Melbourne comedy scene, Janet McLeod is a writer, performer, toy collector, trivia trailblazer and co-host of the popular Cinema Fiasco. Janet is also the producer of Local Laughs, and she's here with me today. Janet McLeod, welcome to 15 Minutes of Fame.
Noel, I'm thrilled to have my 15 minutes. This is great. I've been trying to carve out this 15 minutes for quite some time.
I've wanted to get you on for a while, and I mentioned this to you just briefly because I used to go to Local Laughs of a Monday night, which is the night it's on, and I went because I had broken up with my partner, and it was such a great night, and I felt a real connection with Local Laughs because I saw some really terrific comedians there.
Oh, absolutely. It's got a good vibe. It's got a sort of a Janet's Lounge Room vibe.
Janet's Lounge, I like that. Janet's Lounge Room. Well, look, I'm a bit worried what your lounge room might look like, Janet.
Littered with comedians.
Well, there you go. Now, look, before we go into that, I wanted to step us back a little bit because Local Laughs has been going, correct me if I'm wrong, 19 years.
19 years this year, yes.
That's a lot of comedians. That's a lot of Monday nights.
That is quite some time. I mean, we had a little tiny section out, of course, due to pandemic issues.
Well, look, before we get on to Local Laughs, what I want to ask you, what's a nice girl from Ballarat doing in Melbourne comedy scene?
Look, the transition went, me in Ballarat, working at Channel 6 Ballarat, and then my sister got involved in theatre sports, so improvised theatre games, and she told me about it, and I went, oh, that sounds fun, so I went along with her and met this amazing group of people, really positive, funny, creative people who I still work with today. That's it. There's this gang of people that became the heart of what I love when it comes to creating and putting things on. So I carry them with me still, those people.
Did you think when you were in Ballarat, well, stay in Ballarat.
Okay, stay in Ballarat.
Stay in Ballarat for
Get a jumper.
Did you think when you were in Ballarat that you were a funny person?
Not particularly. I mean, I'd be able to crack gags and make the teachers laugh at school, but not in a class clown fashion, in a I've just made a witty pun fashion. And I was one of those kids who would be around the library. I was a library monitor at one stage. What a nerd. But it was fun. It was fun being there. It wasn't until I started doing the theatre sports and I started to loosen up because I was a shy child. I was not an outgoing person at all. And so I started to just discover a different side. So the creative, funny, having fun side started around about then. So when I moved to Melbourne, then I sought out the theatre sports lot again and found a new little crew. And at that point there was a crossover with the stand-up scene. So I kind of crossed into helping out backstage and that morphed into an on-stage role. So I've never really sought it out.
What was your first on-stage role in Melbourne?
My first ever on-stage, it was at the Playhouse at the Arts Centre.
Oh, wow.
Because theatre sports...
What an entry into Melbourne, the Arts Centre.
850 people, wow! So, because theatre sports was massive. Every Sunday night, that would be absolutely packed with people. They'd have cheap tickets, but, you know, it was like a real Sunday night thing in Melbourne was to go to theatre sports. And so we were just this bunch of, you know, little nerds from Ballarat. And so Ballarat teams would go up and perform / you know, compete. Mm-hmm. And so I was in one of them at one point.
What's your funniest memory from that period?
Oh, I can remember... Look, it's something that's quite cliched in theatre sports, but back then it wasn't necessarily as cliched. I can just remember just some martial arts scene, and I was doing a flying kick as the others were holding me, and so I was able to do a slow motion, a flying kick through the air with, you know, people supporting me underneath. And it was just one of those things, which, again, is quite cliched now, but it wasn't as much back then, I assure you.
When did the idea of a regular gig, you know, like Local Laughs, pop into your head?
Okay, where this came from was, so it went Ballarat Theatre Sports, Melbourne Theatre Sports, then it went into the crossover with the stand-up scene where I met comedians, as well as a guy from radio, Dave Taranto, who used to run the Cheese Shop on PBS, and then it went into Triple R. And so when it went into Triple R, Dave got me in to production assistant, really, during one comedy festival, and I kind of stayed. And eventually that morphed into...
They couldn't shake you.
It kind of went into a co-host position. I used to bring in the biscuits. I think that was pretty much it. And so via that, Dave put on a live night as well, and I was the door bitch. I was the door bitch on that one. So I got to meet everybody, and everybody got to know me. Like in 1999, Dave, here we go. This is the sad bit. Dave got brain tumour.
Oh, wow.
And so it was quite quick, and so he died at the end of 99. And so I guess I took on a certain mantle in that way, started doing some stand-up nights for, I suppose, the more creative end of stand-up, the more alternative end. So instead of just, one man, one mic, that sort of area, things where there was absurdity or difference, and they became my real interests.
And what was your favourite subject when you started doing stand-up? What touched your soul enough that you wanted to share it with the audience?
Oh, well, I am a big lover of stuff. In fact, before we started recording, we were talking about stuff.
We were.
I am a fan of op shopping. I think they call it vintage stalls now, whatever, vintage stores, vintage shopping. No, op shopping, and finding treasures. And so I would take some of these treasures on stage, like ridiculous albums and things like,
Like the Bert and Patty... Bert and Patty Newton.
Yes,
did an album. Is that the sort of thing you would find?
Things that are be daggy, or they'd have like there's one which is the piano wizardry of Jan August, and the image on it has got like 5 hands on the piano, and I'm going, no wonder he was so good. He had 5 bloody hands. And one which is called Harp Attack, and there's a harp on the operating table. Just things that were silly, and lyrics on lyric sheets that were dumb, and funny little bits and pieces that I used to love taking on stage and talking about.
One of the other things I know that you are is a toy collector. So what is the strangest toy you have in your collection?
There's some that are just
that
odd.
You can share to our... Keep it nice, Janet. Keep it nice.
They're just ones that are odd, like... It looks like a dog, but you squeeze it and it's a cow. Just things that, have been accidental, but I love.
So comedy for you is a more zany... you can't see, but Janet's dressed in the brightest coloured dress... Colour of a rainbow, that's how she's dressed.
It's so bright, in fact, I'm pretty sure they can hear it.
I'm sure they can. Who do you think is the funniest person in Australia?
Oh, that changes for me all the time. There's the people that I love listening to and go back to all the time. I mean, Judith Lucy's brilliant.
Yes, she is.
And so's Denise Scott, and so's even people that you might not know of, like Josh Glantz makes me laugh so much because he's got a real absurdist bent. I love storytellers. I love very sharp comedians, like very intellectual, sharp comedians. Like Laura Davis is somebody who is just an extraordinary comedian. I like people who are fun. Andrew McLeod, who is one of my absolute favourite MCs of all time. He brings the party vibe with him wherever he goes. I don't have any one person.
Well, here's
it's
a question.
Collection. It's a little a family of people.
So if you had to, in your flat at home, if you had to spend a week, like Big Brother style, locked in a flat with, let's say, 2 other comedians, who would you choose to spend your time with?
Oh, I think I've kind of done that because I've had every now and then comedy flatmates. So Ivana Aristeguieta, everybody's favourite Venezuelan Australian comedian.
Okay. Because
he's an excellent cook. And I like hearing about his life when he was growing up in Venezuela.
And you like his food as well?
Yeah, so he's quite tidy. So.
Okay, well, that's good. Tidy tick for a housemate.
Well, because I'm not, and so I got to have somebody
who's going to do the cleaning up.
Who's going to do that? I'm not doing this very well. I'm so sorry.
What about Alex Williamson? Would you?
Nah.
You wouldn't be there with Alex Williamson?
No, I think I'd kill him.
What about Tom Hardy? I know he's not a comedian, but just for a change of
of pace. No, I think I need somebody who's sillier.
Sillier, okay.
I also shared the flat once with Damien Warren Smith, who is Gary Starr, everybody's favourite ridiculous clown character.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to be in lockdown, talking of lockdown, we'll get to that, but I guess if you're going to be in lockdown, you want somebody who's going to be amusing, clean the house and can cook. I think that's...
Yeah, people who are playful. That's what it is. It's actually people who are playful, because I can be dark myself. I don't need anybody else to help me to do that. Now,
in lockdown, you did something extraordinary. You did 350 online events.
Oh, more than that.
More than that.
Well, actually, how many were trivia? Yeah, maybe it was probably somewhere close to that was trivia. I either hosted or co-hosted. It was the end of 2021. I did the count up, and I'd hit 400 shows, online shows via Zoom that I had hosted or co-hosted.
That's incredible.
And they were various, like the majority were trivia shows. So you could play just like a regular pub night in a team, because Zoom has breakout rooms. And so I'd create the breakout rooms, assign everybody off to their correct team room, and they'd be able to discuss the questions, write them out the answers, and then I'd bring them back into the main meeting. I mean, why do people play trivia in pubs? It's to hang out with their mates and have some drinks and have a reason to do it. And that's trivia. That's what we were doing, replicating that experience, but on Zoom. Comedy is a different way. There's a different way to present it because of Zoom's spotlight feature. So I just have the security settings so people couldn't unmute accidentally or, whatever. Because if you have too many people who have the ability to unmute, chaos!
Yes,
chaos,
absolutely.
Right?
We're talking all over the place. We've got to get back to the original reason I got you in here, which is, of course, Local Laughs.
So let's talk about it.
Which started 19 years ago.
Yes.
Now, that very first night at Local Laughs, do you remember who you had on?
Oh, I know Dave Callan was our MC, and I know my friend Mel Sargent, the Sarge, was on. Who else was on? I can't remember who else was on, but I do remember Dave Callan was the MC.
Did you, at the time you started Local Laughs, did you think it would be going for 19 years?
I'm not sure. I don't think like that.
You don't think?
I don't have a 5-year plan or anything like that.
Not even a 6-month plan?
Well, I knew it'd go longer than that. Because here's the thing about the comedy industry. You get in the open mic level, you can get some people who, let's just say, are a bit bitchy, and very critical of the way rooms are run, mostly because they don't get booked. And so I'd been criticised from previous comedy rooms for being snobbish or something, just because I'd program who I wanted to see. Call me wacky, that's the way I program. If I don't enjoy it, then
nobody else is.
Yeah, well, what's the point? When it first started, then I decided, okay, here's my rule. I will book you, because it was a bit more open mic approach at the very beginning. And so it was, I will book you. All you have to do is turn up to the night and ask for a spot, and I'll book you a bit further down the line. So, because I thought, well, the very least you can do is show an interest in me and the venue, and that means that you're part of it. I even got criticised for that. What about if I have stuff on a Monday night and I can't turn up to book in? Well, actors have to do auditions, guys.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now, one of the things when I went to Local Laughs, which I loved, I've always loved. Every night I've gone, I've always loved it.
Yes.
And of course, you have a name performer on.
Oh yes.
And you also have a lot of new starters, shall we say?
Well, yeah, not new though. That's the thing. Is that about just going back that approach that I had at the very beginning. After about 4 months, I think I went, nah, I'm going back to the way I like it, which is I'm going to hand pick everybody. So the way I do it is I will have people who are within the first maybe 4 years of their arts practice, as they say in the arts industry. So I'll have people certain number of people who are newer or just not known in the wider world, and they're the ones who are the support acts.
Do people recommend people to you?
Sometimes, yes. People who know my taste. I mean, there's the two different types of recommendation. One, which is, Janet, I've got somebody that I think you will really like it. That's the I'm doing you a favour recommendation. And then there's the, this person's asked if I could recommend them. And I go, would you put your name behind them? And at that point, they'll either go, oh, no, or, yeah, I think I would, yeah. So so then there's the, they're doing that other person a favour recommendations.
Is there one night of local laughs that sticks out in your mind for any particular reason at all? Is there a moment that you'll never forget?
I liked it when Adam Hills discovered that when you're on the microphone, there's a tram stop right outside. And this is something I would do at trivia night. Say, hi to the people on the tram, give us a wave, yeah. Who wants to come in? What? Okay, they're going to buy anybody who comes in a shot. Come on in. So
wow.
That would sometimes happen back in the old days when the venue was a bit more frat house. Adam discovered that one night. He said, oh my God, they could hear us. Oh my God. And so the next tram that pulled up, he said, who wants to come off the tram? And oh my God, they're coming. And so a couple came off the tram. She dressed sort of in almost vintage gear and with a handbag over her arm. And he was sort of a bit more local St Kilda colour type person with tattoos and whatever. He made a beeline straight for the stage. In fact, they both did. Came straight off the tram, up on stage, and passed them the microphone. And the guy was actually quite funny.
Oh no.
And so Adam just went, and just went and stood off to one side.
Oh no. He was better than Adam Hill.
It was, well, it was because it was so spontaneous.
Yes.
It was very funny.
Just to wrap us up now, because we've talked more than a little bit about local laughs. What would you say to a young Janet back in Ballarat if you could advise her about going into the comedy business? I
would say learn how to use Excel. I would say do a small business course first. Get somebody else to do the marketing.
So you would advise them to have a team of people behind them, is that what you're saying?
Yes, because it's usually me and it's quite lonely running a gig all by yourself.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
And for me, I'm one of those people where it does affect me emotionally. Like, if there's stacks of people coming, I go, oh, great, this is fantastic. But if not so many people are coming, I go, I'm a loser.
Well, you are not a loser, and I'm going to thank you for joining me on 15 Minutes of Fame today.
Thank you so much.
Janet, thank you very much. I love Local Laughs. If you haven't been there, get out to Local Laughs.
That's it.
It's
at the local tap house in Carlisle Street, St Kilda 184, Carlisle Street, St Kilda East. And it is Monday nights at 8:30 p.m. You can book via trybooking.com. That's trybooking.com.
Janet McLeod, this has been your 15 Minutes of Fame.